I keep thinking about when we were kids and how they used to make us practice hiding under our desks in case of an atomic bomb.
Yeah, duck and cover.
All right, folks, guess what? Tonight, let's have an MRE. Why not? You've been hoarding these out in your bunker for many years. Let's pull them out and have dinner. Hello and welcome back to the Duck and Cover Movie Podcast. My name is Jeremy, and with me tonight is Jason. How are you, sir?
Hello. I'm good.
And tonight we have a guest star. We have Bonnie, Jason's wife, who's going to be doing some of the commentary for us tonight. Hello, Bonnie. How you doing?
Doing very well. Excited to be here with you guys.
Yeah. And tonight we are talking about episodes 3 and 4 from Jericho. So let's see. So episode 3 is so the Morse code message that comes across is Jericho 3. Go figure. They really made it special for that one. But the nice thing is as it gets going, because you'll actually see in the next episode when we get to 4 that the message comes across a little more cryptic, and I think it makes it more interesting.
Well, was it and were the first ones was it Jericho 1 and 2?
So the first one said Jericho Pilot.
Yeah.
They were just the name of the episodes.
Yeah.
So,
And then the next one was Jericho Fallout. So
yeah, Fallout. Okay. Well, because I was kind of thinking like and then watching the third episode. I know we talked about this after the 1 and 2, but I think 1 through 3 is like the actual, to me, is kind of like the pilot, because it's like starting in 4 is when we're actually getting to the story. I mean, 1 through 3 is just a setup of who these people are and what happened. And then and then in 4, we start to actually, see how the story unfolds and how they got there, and, and that they're linked maybe somehow to what happened, and just a part of this environment.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So. I feel like 1 and 2 especially are like they're setting up a little bit of mystery, but not really. You've got the mystery around Jake and where he's been and why he's being so elusive. Yeah. But you don't really see the other mystery until like 3 and 4.
Yeah, and we still don't know like what happened in the world. And now finally we see, okay, bombs, they have the map of where bombs went off. So we know that, it wasn't an accident, it wasn't aliens, it wasn't,
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't go with the alien aspect. That just wouldn't have worked. I'm sorry.
I agree.
Yeah. So to recap really quickly, like we were saying, episode 1 is where we see that the bombs have gone off, and in episode 2, especially at the end, that's when we're seeing the fact that it's more than just Denver and Atlanta. We're finding out that there's actually Chicago, Philadelphia, and San Diego. And as we get into episode 3, we'll find out that there's actually even more places. So, Bonnie, why don't you go ahead and get started?
All right. So it opens up with the mysterious Mr. Hawkins suiting up in a radiation suit. And he's entering a storage unit. And there's an empty U-Haul outside. So they really jump right in with the, leaving a lot of questions as far as who this gentleman is. We knew he was new to town, but we didn't know this this level of what's going on. So
why is it's during the fallout rain. Is this the time to be moving furniture?
Not really. And why does he have a hazmat suit?
Right.
And like I noticed that he's like taping it off too.
Yep.
So it's like obviously somebody who knows how to use a hazmat suit. Like it's not
Right.
just, you know, some random person who had a hazmat suit in their, you know, because they thought the end of the world was happening. Like he actually knows
Yeah.
how to properly wear a hazmat suit. But yeah, and I noticed that the U-Haul is empty. So but he's taking like a dolly out. So it looks like he's loading something in as opposed to like loading out in the rain. So then we flip to the first part of it is flipping pretty quickly. So then we flip to the ranch where Emily, Jake, and Bonnie and the beat up cops are in the storm cellar. And they're talking about Stanley being out in the rain and being concerned about that. Then we flip pretty quick again to town hall, to the town hall shelter, where Jake's brother are talking about issues with the ventilation for the salt mine. I'm sorry, we flip to the town hall and you hear Jake's brother on the radio with Jake.
Right.
And they're talking about concerns with the ventilation for the salt mine. They think that maybe the bomb that they used to close the mine might have damaged. And they're also concerned that they can't get anybody on the radio over at the salt mine. So then we flip again. So again, the cuts are pretty quick, and I feel like that's to kind of create a sense of unsettledness. And we see the teacher, who is the true jack of all trades in this show. I know you guys were talking about Jake of all trades, but I do want to notice that we have the science teacher of all trades.
Right.
So who seems to be able to fix machines, and we find out later knows how to not blow up gasoline. And she's kind of
panic attacks and heart attacks and that sort of thing.
Yes, she does. She knows quite a lot. And I do find the contrast between the panicky girl next door, who's, you know, the cute little blonde who's so worried about her fiance, and then the brunette next door who is like, get out of my way, I got this.
Right.
So I did notice that. So, but she is in the process of calming a gentleman who appears to be beginning to become claustrophobic, becoming panicky. We flip back to the storm cellar where Jake's sitting backwards on the chair to provide comfort to the damsel Emily in distress. Right. We hear footsteps upstairs. Everybody starts to get panicky. The cops draw guns, and then Stanley comes down, dripping in radioactive rain. So everybody's very excited that he is safe, and very concerned that he's brought the radioactive rain down and that he's covered in it. So then we flip back to the storage unit. And when we pan across the storage unit, it does not look like the storage unit of a family who has just moved into town. So there is a bank of assault rifles. They're all lined up. They're all stored. It looks more like a military weapons installation rather than, you know, the mini storage down the way. So
right. And then the great thing with that is, you know, I mean, aside from it just being, I think, overly dramatic, it's just the fact that you know, I mean, that will actually end up getting paid off almost all the way through season 1. When it gets to the point where one town actually starts getting ready to fight another, that's when Hawkins comes out and says, "Oh well, yeah, I've got guns."
By the way, I just happen to have a cache of assault rifles. So yes, I'm really enjoying this because I have watched all of this before, but I don't remember any of it. So it's like watching it for the first time.
It's interesting.
I can't remember what happens.
All the cases, you know, the guns, they're all like very high tech looking, and then there's this rusty oil barrel with a
Right.
slick duct
yes.
tape.
As we're panning past the Pristine's assault rifles, then we see the rusty barrel and that he is duct taping up, which seems legit. So he loads that up on the dolly and puts that into the U-Haul trailer. So then we flip back to the cellar where they're radioing Amy, the doctor, who, just to remind everybody, is the brother's wife that he just happens to be cheating on. So they're asking for advice on how to help Stanley. She asks if they have iodine, and Stanley says that he saw military tanks heading towards Denver.
Right.
So that gets it. So they're like trying to deal with like, oh wait, he's dying, we should do something. Oh, but there's also tanks heading towards Denver. Right. So
but you know what's funny is aside from them talking about the tanks a little bit later, other than that, they're never shown. It's never brought up again.
Really? Like we don't circle back to the tanks.
No, they end up within the next few minutes, when Jake is relaying all the information that Stanley told him, his dad hears the fact that that there was tanks, and he was talking about that there was I don't know, military, or there was some sort of National Guard, I think, base.
Yes. That there's a National Guard. Yep, that's where. Yeah. So we flip back to the mine. Nope, I apologize that I lost my my. So the doctor is talking about getting him to the clinic as soon as the rain breaks, and if he throws up in the next couple hours, to get his sister out of there because he's going to die and doesn't want her to see that. So they have this whole conversation about what goes better with iodine, peaches, or pickle juice, which I find to be hilarious. And he ends up just swigging iodine, which if that won't make you throw up, that's all I could think. So
I think that's what it's designed to do anyway.
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
It's supposed to do something to the thyroid.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So that it doesn't, you don't metabolize the radiation as quick.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
It's supposed to like inhibit the thyroid or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doctor. I don't know.
Yes, because the I know that iodine and the thyroid are closely connected due to some research that I've been doing. So, and problems with the thyroid are often happen with folks who are from countries that have that we don't have it as much in the US because we put iodine in our salt, on our table salt. Right. But that's just a random one. So now I have a comment that I think, is this when we hear the Morse code again, Jason? I feel like you looked it up and it said the 4 horse and it was the 4 horsemen.
No, it was episode 3 or Jericho 3. Right.
Oh, okay.
That was the name of the episode. I looked at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it said 4 horsemen, but it said 4 horsemen.
Okay, so it's not.
It was the other way around.
Oh, okay. So that's okay. So then we flip back to the mine where the teacher is still trying to help calm the claustrophobic gentleman who is now threatening to leave the mine.
But
right, yeah, like I'd like to see. Yeah, but I can see that like the tensions are starting to raise. There's like people are starting to panic. They're getting concerned that he is going to cause everyone in the mine to panic.
Yeah. Right.
So then we flip back to the town hall where the mayor is coughing and getting oxygen on the radio. Jake's talking to the mayor about the tanks. This is where he says that there's a National Guard unit stationed in, I don't know if it was Wichita or in the area, and they might be headed for relief efforts, which I think is interesting because I feel like we saw all this happen in the pandemic, like where there's always there's folks that are always looking for maybe it's not so bad, you know,
Right.
that like, oh, they're probably headed for relief efforts, where of course Jake is thinking, you
They're
know,
getting invaded.
they're getting either invaded or they're enacting martial law, was what I was thinking. You know, that the tanks are not there for relief efforts, but
Yeah. No, it's the two sheriffs in their underwear that keep
no,
thinking.
that's right. Yes.
Yeah, remember, they're coming for us.
Yeah.
Actually, you
So,
know what? I take back what I said earlier. So there's actually an episode later on where a tank does come rolling into town with people dressed in military fatigues. So that could be sort of where the whole tank sort of quick storyline kind of pays off, because one does show up later.
Yeah.
that's true.
But aside from hearing about the tanks, we never see them or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah, they don't really flesh out that storyline.
Right.
So Jake starts to talk about wanting to check out the tanks and what they're doing. Emily insists that she wants to go with him because she wants to find her fiance. And then so then we see, you know, it's continuing to kind of pan around that shelter and the clinic. The brother tells the lawyer that she can't smoke in the area, which I think is hilarious. She's such a funny character. And then he puts his arm lovingly around his wife.
Right.
And you pan over, the lawyer says she doesn't like the brother, and the brother's side piece agrees that she doesn't like him either. So
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just the idea of what, you know, you have your parents, you have your wife there. What are you going to do? You're going to go and tell everybody right now, excuse me, honey, I'm going to go over to the woman that I'm sleeping with, and I'm going to go comfort her too. What?
right,
You know,
yeah, it's just, but you know he's got to be panicking, because
Right.
like now these people are all like within the same fallout
Same
shelter. Like he
Yeah.
did not anticipate this happening, which is why you should think about that before you make poor choices. So
Well, I think he's kind of
because the end
relieved.
of the world could always happen.
I think he's kind of relieved that the end of the world happened, and just kind of took
Yeah.
a big distraction from that.
That's true. That's true. So then we flip to the rich girl's house where the nerdy boy is. And you know, you see kind of a budding friendship there that
Right.
might be happening. She's treating him much more kindly than she has treated him in the past. And I noticed that they make an effort to show the snow globe from Niagara Falls. Like it's prominent.
Right.
They pan and show it. And I made a note of it because it was so, like, it seems so intentional. But I don't know if we ever circle back to that. But it seemed intentional.
And what's funny is the character of Skylar, especially in this episode, really, actually, this one and the next one switches very quickly. You know, she ends up losing sort of her, rich girl status after the next episode when everybody finally gets out. But you know, it's just funny because she just all of a sudden just makes a 180, and then it's, you know, she doesn't hang out with any of the other kids that she did before, and I don't even think we see any of them after that. They're, you know, obviously they're still in the town.
Yeah.
But you know, but we never.
Although, as the parents of middle schoolers, we can, and especially middle school girls, we can attest to the fact that they flip on a dime. So that part was not unreasonable to me.
Well,
right.
I think Skylar, because what happens later, actually those kids do come up because it's their parents and all of them.
Oh yeah.
We sort of get into the politics of the town because the salt mine and everything else is owned by the parents. And so when her parents are gone, and I think she's realizing without her parents there, she's extremely vulnerable. And not just because of like care, like for, you know, food and all of that, but because the only reason she had any status in that town was because of the ownership her parents had. And that comes up.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
She's trying to like later on, she's trying to say, well, my parents are gone, so I take over that part of the salt mine. And they're like, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
Right.
And I like the fact that at least with Dale's character, I mean, he tends to be through several episodes. I mean, you get to see his character sort of grow a little bit. But at least for now, he's still staying with the quiet, lived in a trailer. The trailer is going to be gone in a few episodes, but he's still sort of staying with the poor kid sort of mentality. So
yeah,
well, I think there's a parallel between these two characters because both their parents are now gone, and
right,
so you have Dale who's poor, and then you have her that's rich, and then so they both end up having to survive somehow. So they make kind of parallel choices and working together, and what they do, right, to become basically entrepreneurs,
right.
kind of touchy, but because it's about survival. So
yeah, and the thing that I find interesting too is the fact that these two, their stories stay very tight the rest of the show. You got a lot of characters whose storylines kind of interweave with a lot of other stories, but for these two, as far as I remember, they actually lived through the entire show, what there is of it, and they never like split apart or anything like that. So yeah, like you're saying, these two are really starting to bond over the fact that parents are gone, and it's just
they
them,
seemed like they lived in two different worlds. They were so different in the environment that was high school, and then now everything has changed.
Right.
And the rules that applied in school are don't apply in the world, and in a post-apocalyptic world. So I found this to be really interesting, because then we flip again to town hall, where Jake's mom is talking about doing duck and cover drills. So that made me kind of giggle.
Yeah, and this is the episode where where I have the voiceover stuff for the theme of the show. Is from this episode. So when she's sitting there talking about duck and cover, that's where it comes from.
Oh, that's so interesting. I will have to say, I thought you interviewed your mom about that. I thought that was Louise talking about duck and cover drills, but now that makes sense. So, but it quickly turns from, kind of a funny or like a lighter hearted conversation about doing that, turns pretty dark pretty quickly about, whether, and she says, did they have enough time? She's talking about the people in Denver. Did they have enough time to hide under their desk? Pretty stupid, huh? Is what she says. So the bar owner, or as I have her listed, the side piece, confronts the brother about his wife.
Yeah.
And how she doesn't appear to be grieving the loss of her marriage, which is implied that he was supposed to have had a conversation with her. I think he's like, I've got a little bit bigger fish to fry right now, honey. Yeah. The world is literally ending. But so that, implies that they've had a conversation about this, that he was supposed to have told his wife. His wife has clearly not been told, from everything else that we've seen up until that moment. So so we flip back to the cellar, and Stanley is giving Jake strict instructions to take care of Bonnie if he dies. He's beginning to process some of this and wants to make sure she's taken care of course, just like they do in all Hollywood films. He's like, no, you have to take care of her. You have to stay alive, take care of her, And then we see at that point the rain begins to stop. So Jake's brother walks outside with a Geiger counter, which I will admit I do not know how to spell, and could not get it close enough for spell check. So And then we start seeing folks streaming outside with, some relief. The lawyer, in all of her educated brilliance, puts her hand on one of the pillars and sees, she has black stuff on her hand. She asks what it is, and the bar owner says, "I believe that's what used to be Denver."
Right.
So
I mean, honestly, it's a pretty good line.
it was actually a pretty, dark, but good.
Yeah. But it was, I don't know. It was still
but if you don't like dark humor, why are you watching post-apocalyptic shows?
Right, exactly.
So then we flip back to the cellar one more time, and Jake's telling the cops in their underwear to take Stanley to the clinic, and radios the others to meet at the mine to get the folks out. I guess we're putting the tank investigation on hold until we get those folks out. And the folks in the mine, they race there. They start clearing the rocks, drilling through. The folks
somehow they have the fastest transportation system in Jericho. They get
absolutely
seconds.
It's just
yes,
minutes. And
the same from how they got from the town hall or the clinic to the mine in the first place, like how they loaded up, tens of people on buses or wherever and got them there.
Yeah.
So yes. So there's cheering, and Jake and his brother come through the debris. Jake greets the teacher, and the claustrophobic man, the man who was becoming claustrophobic and panting, is carried out. And the men who are carrying him say he's dead, and it's left unclear how he died.
Mr. Rainey.
Becomes Mr. Rainey.
He had a name.
Yes. That's right. We need to say his name.
And it's funny because, again, this is one of those types of shows where don't get hooked on a character.
Absolutely not.
They could go like that. So
yes, but also don't get hooked on like the snow globe of Niagara Falls, because we may never see that again. So you don't know which of what they're trying to lead you to and what's a distraction. And
I'm pretty sure, and now I may be making this up in my mind, but I'm pretty sure that Niagara Falls thing comes up somewhere, like a password or something like that. I swear
we'll have to look. I'm looking for that. So at the clinic, Jake asks about Stanley, who's in isolation, who he's told is in isolation. He's in a wheelchair and a gown. He says he threw up, but swears it was because he chugged iodine. And he's saying that he needs to get back to the ranch, and makes a joke about Spider-Man and radioactive spiders. So I thought that was cute. So he's kind of wandering back out of his room. Apparently he's not in isolation anymore. And he passes by the lawyer, who asks if she's going to die. The teacher's asking about the claustrophobic man, and the doc says that he died of a heart attack. So, but when they say that, we pan and we see, is it Gray? I have him
Gray
as the mayoral candidate.
Gray Anderson and Shep.
And Shep, right. So he is standing there ominously. Right. So we're led to believe that maybe it was not a heart attack after all. Right. So then we flip back to the rich what did you say her name was? The rich girl?
Skylar's
house. And she's playing cards with
Dale.
Yeah. The nerdy kid. And you can see that they're there seems to be, it's not like there's like a lot of, flirting or romantic overtones or anything, but like a friendship. But that's when her friends come by and she starts making excuses and saying things like it's not what it looks like. So
and I love the fact that the friends just walk right in.
Yeah.
It's the end of the world, but they all somehow decide, well, you know what, we're going to Skylar's house and we're just going to walk right in.
Yeah, like apparently we don't knock in the post-apocalypse.
Yeah.
So the mayor, per usual, is complaining about having to stay at the hospital. His wife is telling him to stay put. Jake is not helping his mom's efforts by reiterating that they need info about the tanks and about what's going on in the world. And he suggests that they send parties out in different directions. And the mom objects, but the dad agrees that that's what they need to do. So we see Dad and Jake making plans. Emily insists that she's going with him to Wichita. So there's basically 4 of them. They're talking about going out, northwest, north, south, east, west. And Gray Anderson makes the comment like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So we switch and we see men on the roof moving the satellite, trying to get a signal on top of the bar. The brother tries to talk to the bar owner, who is not having it. Mysterious Mr. Hawkins shows up as the signal is found, which is interesting. He always seems to show up at those most opportune times.
Yeah, he's the other Jake on the spot. So
yes, absolutely, with way more knowledge than seems to be appropriate.
Right.
The other folks just seem to have like, knowledge where you're like, I wonder how they did it. But him, you're like, this seems interesting. So we see what appears to be an Asian news anchor speaking in a foreign language. And people are asking if anybody knows what language. And surprisingly, not surprisingly, Hawkins is able to identify it as Mandarin. So
it was Jake. He's like, that's Chinese.
That's Chinese.
Hawkins is like
Mandarin. Right, yeah. So, and we see a map of the US and it looks like there are circles over 6 cities.
Yeah, so according to the information I found, the cities that they show are Denver, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, San Diego, and San Francisco. And then this is what appears through the static to be Seattle and Philadelphia. So what they're trying to say is it's just everywhere.
Yeah. So across the US. So the Jake, with this new information and knowing that it's a more than just Denver, Jake and his brother are arguing about going out. Some of the guys that were going to go say they don't want to go into a war zone. And that's when we see the bar owner and the teacher trying to determine what the cities were on the TV map.
Right.
Hawkins interjects, which I noticed he does a lot, and volunteers to help. He's always Johnny on the spot, as well as a jack of all trades. And Jake asks if he has kids, and he replies that he has 2. And Jake says he wants to keep it to people without families. So he tries to dissuade him. Thank you. So the teacher engages one of the men from the mine about the death of Mr. Rainey. She just won't let this go. The gentleman that she talks to, is it Shep? I think it's Shep that she stops and is asking, and he says he doesn't want to talk about it. Gray Anderson interrupts at that point and just happens to send Shep for supplies. This distracts the teacher, and then he further distracts the teacher. We talk about how they've all had such a hard day.
Right.
So we flip to outside where Jake's getting into the car with Emily. He begins to try to comfort her and reassure her. She gets the teacher's fine. Like, she doesn't need reassuring from, the chivalrous Jake. But she storms off, asserting that her fiance's dead. And I quoted this because I thought it was important. She said, "He's dead and I'm here with you. You're the one who's supposed to be dead, not him."
Right.
And storms off saying, "Fine, just go without me."
With the hand clip. You were the one
that was yeah.
He's got to touch the borderline, I think.
A little bit. A little bit. So then we flip to Gracie's grocery store, where Dale sees the owner. She expresses concern about him, which I think is interesting, shows a touch, because she's been portrayed as such a hard and prickly sort of character. But she seems to have a soft spot for this little one. Jake's mom comes in and they talk about how the food's going bad without refrigeration, and the shipment was supposed to be coming in for restocking, but that's obviously not going to happen now. And then mom suggests that they comment about how food's going bad all over town, and they suggest just cooking everything, which I think was your solution the day that our refrigerator went bad, Jason. I think that was that where you got that idea? You were just like, okay, just cook everything. Just cook it up.
You feel like you got to do something, know? And
it's not a bad idea.
And you don't want to just sit there and watch it go bad. So
exactly.
Well, and I do actually like the way they do this, because I really think that becomes like, I think you'll always have those people. Like, I'm the person who you want to put with all the children during I was the one making, hot cocoa pancakes in the middle of a pandemic, trying to create some sense of normalcy. So I felt like that's her strength. That's her character. She's going to try to create the best out of a bad situation. So let's just have a big cookout. So we flip to the clinic where Stanley is walking by the lawyer. He's offering support. She says he doesn't need to do that because she's the one who audited his farm. And he says, well, maybe I'm a nicer person than you. And then this is when she finds out that he was out in the rain, and she feels really bad about complaining about how she thinks she's going to die.
Leave her hand.
Yes, with Denver all over her hands, and they exchange some flirting before she tells him that he's sweet, but he still owes the IRS $180,000. And I don't think the IRS is still around. So
at that point.
So then we flip to the bar where Shep is writing and folding up paper in a booth and looks very sad. So then Gray Anderson, we see all this happening in the bar. Gray Anderson is packing up and coordinating it. Actually, he's over at town hall now, and he engages with the mayor, who thanks him. The mayor asks what happened to Mr. Rainey, and Gray says Gray says that he didn't die of a heart attack, that he died of poor planning.
Poor planning.
And it wouldn't have happened if the clinic shelter had been maintained, and the mayor will have to answer for that. The mayor invites Gray into his office, where he hits him in the stomach.
Yep.
And dresses him down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Does that sort of,
because he's
just
like,
the heel
I'm
of the
over
tail,
it.
yeah.
He's like, he's over it. But then we see him bending over the desk and coughing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's been conversation about the mayor having the flu. That you know, but who gets the flu on the day that the the end of the world starts?
The end of the world starts. It's like, oh, I'm sick now.
Oh yeah, I just happen to have a flu. So we see a lot of activity on the street outside of town hall where the men are loading up. Jake's mom asks where Emily is, and Jake says she's not going. Mom says good, and then questions him about going alone. She says she's watched him leave too many times, not knowing if he's coming back, and then kisses him. So the cars begin to drive out. Shep says he's taking someone else's spot, and Gray says he'll get past this. Makes the comments, you'll get past this. So we go back to the bar where the bar owner and the teacher, the bar owner gives the teacher the note that Shep wrote, and she hobbles over to read it because she still has the broken leg from the
bus accident.
The bus accident. There's a voiceover of Shep saying that Gray told him to keep Shep quiet and his heart stopped. He apologizes and says the teacher was a better friend to Mr. Rainey than he was.
You know, I think the teacher has the boot the entire show, doesn't she?
Does she?
What's that?
I think the teacher has that boot the entire show. Heather, is that her name? Heather?
No, actually, she'll have it for another episode or two, and then it goes away. Because if you notice, Jake is already like his limp is almost gone by the next episode.
Right.
But we see her hobbling around with the boot. Because by the time we get to the next episode, it's only been 4 days.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
But they do a couple, like a season, like a couple of seasons away, a few months, I think, at some point.
Yeah, I mean, later on, the time is going to pass a little bit faster once the show gets going.
Yeah. So we see Shep driving, and he's on the radio with Jake's brother, telling him to tell his family that he's sorry, which is a little ominous. Gray's listening over the radio, and Jake rolls to a stop with, he's driving, and then he just stops. He's got this look of shock on his face. He gets out, and the camera pans to a airplane sitting in the middle of the road with its emergency slides down. So it seems to have been evacuated. He looks extremely confused, as one would, seeing a plane in the middle of the road. And then we see, and behind it, there's another crashed plane behind the first one. So then we flip back to it's evening and the big cookout. Everybody's in the town square. She sees Jake's coming through the crowd. The men all assemble back at the town hall and start asking about Jake's brother asks why he's back. Jake says the bridge is blocked and shows a black box from one of the airplanes, which oddly enough is not black. They all make a comment about that. Mom asks if they're survivors, and he says that the plane in the back was a commuter jet and it didn't make it, but the 747 was empty, which prompts the question, where did everyone go? So Jake sent someone to get an old reel-to-reel to listen to the plane tapes, which, first of all, where did they find a reel-to-reel? How did we know that was going to work?
They had plenty of trouble just finding a ham radio. And then they got a reel-to-reel.
And they got a reel-to-reel. Yeah, I guess somebody went to the old library.
Yeah, because he was like, "Hey, go get the reel-to-reel." Like they knew what he was talking about.
Right. Yeah.
But it's one of those things where they have to have it in order to help push the story along.
Because they make the comment about
1,000 planes in the air or something like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
1,000,000 people in the air, and then they're all just going to start dropping at some point.
Yeah.
So this gives us
So
the opportunity to hear what
But I
they
think
say.
I think it's important to note that it shows like this in situations like this of why we have hoarding going on in the world. Because you watch something like this and you're like, I need to keep that old reel just in case.
Right.
just in case.
Just in
Yes.
case.
Yes.
find
That's
a-
how I feel about candles. That's why I cannot get rid of candles.
Right.
Even though I don't burn candles,
Yeah.
I have to keep them because you never know.
Radios.
Everything, yes, because
Everything.
as soon as you throw it away, you're going to need it. So they start
Mhm.
listening to the tapes, and we go back and forth between listening and Jake telling us what we're listening to. Basically, we hear the pilots say they're seeing plumes over Denver. Then another one says they see one over Kansas City. This is where Hawkins interjects again at a very opportune time that there are 10,000 planes in the air,
There
that there's
you go.
now 10,000 planes and nowhere to land. Again, man seems to know everything. He says that's approximately 1 million people in the air.
Yeah.
So the pilots are heard reporting that they see F-16s. And they're trying to decide where to land, and they find the highway and they attempt to land. They're also noting that they can't get air traffic control on,
Right.
that they're running out of fuel. They can't get air traffic control. Everything's kind of going. But he announces, after playing it 3 or 4 times, announces that one of the planes was Emily's fiance. And how he knew the code for I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we hear that pilot saying that they've landed in a field with only minor injuries.
Right.
And he looks at her and smiles, and his mom comforts her, and they cry, and Jake breathes a sigh of relief because his ex-girlfriend's fiance is okay. So then we flip to Hawkins mixing concrete in his mysterious basement. His wife comes down the stairs and wants to go to the cookout with the kids, but Hawkins says, quote, "We're not ready," unquote. Yep. And then says, then when she kind of protests, says, no, they can't go. Setting the dynamic of that, relationship. So he sits back down and continues to work with the concrete, and she walks away without an argument, which I think is interesting because she's taken direction. She's pushing back, but when he lays it down, they don't. So Dale walks by. I can't remember her name. Skylar, thank you, at the party, and she ignores him. He walks up to Gracie, who says she wishes someone had at least said thank you. So this poor lady, I feel like I need to do some. I feel like she needs some therapy to let go of some of her resentment, but
or something.
But so Jake's brother sits down with his wife and spots the bar owner snuggling with some random guy.
Right.
Jake sits down with the teacher, who notes that Emily looks better knowing about her fiance. She says that he made her happy. Jake says he owes her being Emily. Right. So teacher says they're even now, and Jake says not even close. So there's, hinting to more of that history that they have. The mom, Jake's mom, observes that his dad's been really quiet. He replies that it might be a while before they see Jericho like this again. And there's, music and laughter and joking and dancing. And then that is contrasted with Hawkins moving the tape barrel to the corner of the basement and enclosing it with cinder blocks and the concrete. And then we pan, and it's a dark room with a bed. We see feet at the bottom of the bed. There's 2 sets of feet.
Who could it
We
be?
pan and see the brother in bed with the bar owner.
Dun,
He,
dun.
da, da, da. He says he still has to go. So in the middle of an apocalypse, we're still getting some. He says he has to go. And then we see Dale walking across a bridge with a flashlight, and he finds an abandoned train or a wrecked train. It looks like it's hit a vehicle, and he investigates and finds the store shipment.
Yep.
So that is where we end.
Yeah, it's funny because it looks like that, that car was probably pushed maybe a mile. I don't know. I mean, because it's dark, so you have no idea where anything is. But that's always the thing, because there's always going to be a car that gets stopped on the middle of a railroad crossing. So of course the train's got to run into it, but it's like whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Well,
And that ends episode 3.
It does.
What do you think? Should we just do just 3 today?
Sure, we can go ahead and do 4 another day. Oh, but you know what? But before we wrap up, today's episode is actually sponsored by Gracie Lee's Supermarket. So, folks, when the apocalypse hits, there's only one place to go. Apparently, in all of Kansas, there is one place to go, and that's Gracie Lee's Supermarket. Go in there. It doesn't matter what she has. She's going to make a deal with you. And even if it's not money, she's going to end up, doing some sort of deal with you. And yeah, she may take you for a lot. Even though you're only wanting a can of beans, she may take a jewelry box or, some sort of family heirloom. But you know what? You're going to get that food you want.
That's right.
And you're going to get it with a smile. So
I understand she
has I was going to say, she might be prickly, but it's the best deals in Jericho.
That's right.
Well, she's able to get those low prices because she just finds her inventory.
That's right.
That's
on the train.
It's very, very low cost on the backside.
So. Yeah, exactly. You'll get what you need, but she's gonna get what she wants. So there.
That's right.
So, how about we just do this episode and then, because you figure our review of the episode is longer than the episode itself.
So you don't even need. That's what I love about the recap podcast that I listen to. You don't even have to watch it.
Right.
Like I don't even have to watch the show because I just listen to the recap.
Yeah.
So.
All right, folks. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. So we went ahead and just did episode 3. So next week we will do. Actually, do we want to continue with Jericho, or do we want to go to 12 Monkeys?
Let's just run through Jericho.
Okay. All right.
You want to? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we've already got everything. We've been watching it, and
okay.
I think that would be good. Okay.
All right. So folks, we're gonna go ahead and actually continue to just plow through Jericho, and we may do 1 episode, but the hope is that we're gonna do 2, per podcast. But we will we'll have the next one ready probably by Saturday night, Sunday of next week. This one, let's see, it's the 2nd of March right now, so I should have this up on Sunday the 3rd. I'm gonna try and take some audio, at least clips, out of the episode that I have and put those in different places. But yeah, thank you, folks. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We hope that you've made it all the way through this episode. If you have, thank you very much. But take care, folks, and we will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.
Bye.